Find a relaxed position. It can be sitting in a comfortable chair or lying down. Find a position that allows you to let go of all the tension in your body, and then gently close your eyes. Take a couple of deep, long breaths. Feel the breath all the way in your lower belly. Blow each breath out in a long, intentional exhale. If you're having thoughts running through your mind, notice these and then let them go. Watch them drift away like clouds. Now, relax your body. We'll start at the top of your head, your temples, the muscles in your cheeks and jaw, the muscles around your eyes. With each breath, let go of tension and let them relax. Breathe in relaxation, feeling your face, jaw, and head relax with each exhale. Let go of the tension a little more with each breath. Inhale and notice your shoulders. Relax any tension you feel in your shoulders. Just let them drop. Feel your shoulders dropping as they relax more deeply. Breathing in, notice any tension in your arms and in your hands, and just breathe out that tension. On the inhale, feel the relaxation beginning to flow through your back and your stomach. Relax the muscles of your back and stomach as you breathe out. As you inhale, relax your legs and your feet. Let go of any tension and feel it leaving your body a little at a time each time you exhale. Breathe in, relaxation. Breathe out, tension. Now, imagine yourself in a beautiful meadow with tall green grass. The sky is bright and blue, with a few fluffy white clouds drifting by. The sun is warm on your face, and a gentle breeze keeps you comfortable. Just feel the warmth of the sun and the gentle breeze. You're comfortable, relaxed, and at peace. As you walk along now in the meadow, you hear water gently flowing over the rocks in a nearby stream. You slowly walk towards the stream and see a large, beautiful tree on the bank of the stream. You lie down in the shade of that tree, feeling comfortable and relaxed. As you look up through the leaves of the tree, you begin to notice the clouds, soft white, slowly floating across the sky. And you begin to feel yourself floating above the ground, drifting up and up to settle on a soft, fluffy cloud. Feel the surface beneath you become a soft, cloud-like support, supporting you as you gently float. Notice the sun, the gentle breeze, and the warm support as you float along in peace and tranquility. Notice the places where your body touches the cloud. Are they cool, moist, soft, and comfortable? Notice how your body feels warm and comfortable as the sun shines gently on you. And notice the soft clouds floating all around you. See their shapes and sizes as they gently float along with you. You can float wherever you choose, feeling safe and calm and relaxed. You feel relaxed and warm, supported in the warm embrace of your cloud. Imagine the view below your cloud. Grass gently blowing in waves below you, trees with a gentle rustling of leaves. Are there hills? Can you still hear that little stream? Notice how far you can see as you float gently on your cloud. You feel so comfortable and safe and relaxed. Continue floating along, noticing the views below you, the trees, the hills, the flowers. Notice the colors and the shapes and the sounds as you watch the ground below. Notice the shadows below made by the clouds. Watch them drift along across the ground below you. And again, notice the warmth of the sun, the blue sky, and bask in the feeling of safety, peace, and calm. Now, as you look below, you see your beautiful tree next to the stream. And you begin to gently, slowly float down towards it, slowly floating down like a feather, gently swaying and floating until you gently come to rest on the ground beneath the tree. Listen to the gentle rustling of the leaves and the gentle rolling of the stream nearby. Begin to feel yourself again beneath the tree. Notice your breathing, deep, slow, relaxed, and at peace. Now begin to allow the tree to melt away as you begin to imagine yourself back in the room that you were in. And as you begin to feel yourself back in your room, notice how relaxed your muscles feel, how calm and slow your breathing has become. Feel the surface beneath you. Bring with you that feeling of calm, peace, relaxation. Know that these feelings are with you throughout the day. As you slowly open your eyes and come back to your surroundings, just gently move and stretch your arms, your hands, your legs, and gently roll your head and your shoulders, bringing energy back up into your body. And when you're ready, open your eyes and you can return to your day feeling relaxed, refreshed, and free.
Good morning, everyone. I hope that we're all relaxed after, I think that was our last meditation. And welcome to the last week here for academic enrichment. And today we have a wonderful lecture by Dr. Mary Rockwood Lane. She has her doctorate in nursing, and she was the co-founder and director of the arts and medicine here for 15 years at Shands. And I believe she's now the director emeritus. And she is also a writer, so she has multiple books. And so she's very familiar with arts and medicine and how important it is. So let's welcome Dr. Rockwood Lane.
Good morning. Thank you for all coming on camera. This is a wonderful opportunity. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the introduction. Just to let you know a little bit about myself, I am I work at the College of Nursing at the University of Florida. I got my doctoral studies done in nursing, but I started the arts and medicine program when I began my doctoral studies. And what that was is I was interested in introducing the arts into a clinical healthcare setting. And at that time, it was a very new phenomenon. It was almost 30 some years ago. And I've had an unbelievably fantastic career in healthcare. And I'm very passionate about what I do. And I'm currently doing an online course where I'm integrating arts into nursing and how nurses can use art as a practice of self-care and also to cultivate their own healing through their own experience of art. So when I'm speaking to you, I would like to encourage you as you do your academic career going forward, that you cultivate your creativity all the way through the process. And I'm going to start with sharing with you one of my healing bowls. I do this whenever I start my presentation. And this is a singing bowl. It's from Nepal. And it is a sound healing instrument. In Tibet, they actually use these bowls for healing. And the way they use these bowls is they'll lie someone on the ground and they basically use the bowls for the vibrational energy that surrounds the patient. So this has been used in ancient times. So I invite you to take a deep breath, and I'm going to do a small guided imagery, very similar to the meditation, but somewhat different. And I'm going to ask you to breathe all the way down into your belly, feeling your connection to your own body. As we move out of just being in our heads, I want to invite you to move into your heart and into your body and feel your connection to being connected to the earth and feeling grounded. Because one of the things that we do when we're in school is we all live up in our minds and we all in our heads. And this is a reminder to breathe. Breathing all the way down into your belly, connecting to your heart. Knowing the most beautiful part of yourself is what you bring to each encounter, is who you are as a unique human being. And as you cultivate your education, inviting you to cultivate what you hold in your heart, because what you hold in your heart matters. And what you bring to every encounter with every patient, with the colleagues, with the people that you work for, is the power of your presence and the power of your love and the power of your ability to experience and know who you are in relationship to others. And one of the most important journeys is cultivating the skills of caring and compassion. So I invite you to hold that in your heart as you do your journey in exploring what you're looking for when you go into healthcare, because that's one of the most important things I've discovered in nursing and in medicine, is what we bring to the relationships is who we are as human beings and our ability to feel compassion, caring, and kindness. Okay, and that is an instrument. Well, I'm going to talk about healing and art. The singing bowl is actually something that comes from Nepal, Kathmandu, and they make them by hand. And that really, they're using sound as a way of healing. Now, just to set the tone, one of the things that I work with when I work with human beings, and my belief about us is that we are energy fields. We're not just physical fields. We're not just our skin and our physicality. We're actually energy. And also the other part of our connection to who we are, is we have a deep, not only a mind, body, but where there's a spirit that that resides within us. And that spiritual self is really, when I did healing with the arts and brought it into the hospitals and introduced the arts as part of healthcare, what I discovered when families and patients made art, they actually created something that was an experience and an expression of their deepest spiritual orientation. And that was what was remarkable. I will tell you how I got into it. I basically, I went to the University of Florida as a nursing student. I went and lived in Boston, and I went to graduate school at Boston College and became a nurse practitioner. And I worked with women with chronic pelvic pain. And one of the things I discovered with patients who had chronic pelvic pain, many of my patients had gone through a lot of diagnostic procedures, and the medical practice could not find something specifically that they could treat. So I worked with patients who had chronic pain. And what I discovered that was very powerful in working with these patients was listening to their stories, listening to what they believed was wrong. And I discovered when I listened to someone's story about their pain, they actually told, it also comes out of their own imagination. They had these belief systems about their pain, and some of it they were afraid to tell the physicians or the doctors because it didn't sound scientific. So they would just experience pain, but nobody really asked them to tell the story of their personal experience of the pain. And if they could imagine what the pain was, what it would be. And that's the first time I actually started using art, where I invited patients to begin to use art and imagery to share their story of their chronic pain. And when they shared their story, I would listen. And many times, inside of ourselves, I said, it doesn't have to make sense. Your story can be as wild as you think it can be. Just don't worry. Just hear yourself tell your own story. And now that I think about it, I would let them give voice to their feelings, their irrational fears, things that they were attributing to that maybe didn't all add up. But what I discovered when they told their story, it was like the healing began, because they began to know themselves. One of the things about practicing healthcare is that your patients and families know their life stories, and they just want to be heard and deeply listened to. Not only do we give them medications and surgeries and everything, but what people are searching for is to be understood and to be known and to be seen. And sometimes that experience, that's why I believe art is so powerful and art is so healing. And I discovered many of the patients that I was working with began to heal by really beginning to explore different ways other than surgeries to heal themselves. So then I had my own personal experience where I was young. I was working at the University of Florida as an instructor teaching, and I had a crisis in my own life. My husband and I had separated. I was devastated by it. I had 2 small children, and I became severely depressed. And at that time in my life, I had a friend who was an artist who invited me to start to paint. And I started painting. And I will just show you some of these paintings here that I painted. They're very large, big paintings. And I had never painted before. I don't know, did you all get to see some of them? Yeah? Okay, good. I had never painted before. So I started painting, and it was amazing. And I painted my pain, I painted my despair, I painted my rage. I was so physically and emotionally sick. I just needed to release my suffering. and my rage in a constructive way. So I took out these canvases and I started painting. It was such a powerful experience. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. My first painting was this crunched up person. It was like you couldn't even recognize myself. And then this is my last painting. And you can see, let me see if you can see it. Oh dear. Oh, this is craziness. There it is. You can see I'm a portrait of myself. And I realized when I painted that portrait, I had evolved into the strong, whole, confident, healed. And when I looked at that painting, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so much better than I was. And it went over a 6-month period. At that time, I got so excited. I actually got a letter and I connected with a physician. His name is Dr. John Graham Pohl. He was at the Shands and he was the director of the bone marrow transplant unit. And I met him and I got together and I said, I have a great idea. I want to bring artists from the community into the hospital to begin to make art with patients at the bedside. And since he was the director, the medical director of the bone marrow transplant unit, he was like, okay, let's see what we can do. And I said, I want to create something called an artist in residence program. And that started the arts and medicine program. And what we learned since that time, we invited artists, musicians, dancers, painters, poets to go into the clinical intensive care unit. That's what it was. 50% of the patients on that unit died. So it was the end for many patients. It was the last, treatment. It was the last treatment of their, at that time. And the patients were suffering, the families were suffering, the nurses and physicians were suffering. So that was the place we brought the arts in first, just to see if it was possible to transform the setting and explore what arts could do. We had no idea. There's such a thing as art therapy and music therapy. What I discovered about that was they were therapists that used art to do psychotherapy. This was quite different. This was us going into a clinical area, inviting artists simply to make art. There was no processing. It was like the patient was in charge of their own experience. And they simply sang songs and they simply danced and and the nurses and physicians held this space for patients to work with the artists at the bedside and the families. So what I discovered is everyone is an artist and everyone has a tremendous capacity to heal themselves. What we do as healthcare providers, we put patients in the best conditions so their own healing energy can be activated. We give them medications, we put their bones together, we remove, we do surgeries. But once we do our procedures and our interventions, it is up to that human being's body to heal itself and recalibrate and become the optimal functioning human being that they can be. So one of the things the arts does when you invite patients to bring in the arts, and you're asking them to tap into the life force of their own creativity. The life force that is activated by their own creativity. Now, you might remember a time in your life when you were at a time where you just were feeling incredibly creative, incredibly free, incredibly expressive. For a moment, remember that experience in your life. It might be in your childhood, it might be something recently, but remember right now a time in your life and write it down where you were the most creative, the most expressive, and the most free. Just write that time in your life down. And I want to ask you, what was going on in your body? What was going on in your body? What was going on in your feelings and your emotions? What was going on in your body? And how did that tap into your aliveness? You were passionate. You were exuberant. You were vibrant. You were expressive. And the next question I want to ask you, what is your greatest passion in your life right now? I know wanting to be a physician or a nurse or healthcare provider, but what is something else in your life that brings you tremendous joy and creativity and you're passionate about? Think about what that is. And when you think about your creativity and your passion, experience your body and your energy. And what do you feel? And how important do you think that is to your capacity to deal with struggles, to deal with pain, to deal with suffering? Because as you become a healthcare provider, you will actually hold other people's stories, their bodies, their pain, and their suffering. That's what we do. And for you to cultivate the part of yourself that's whole, not only in your mind, but something that keeps you really exuberant and passionate about the things you love in your life, are going to be just as important as you take this journey to become a healthcare provider. It's so important. I want to share with you a couple resources, and then I'm going to read you some stories. This is a book I wrote called The Healing with the Arts. And it talks about how you, as a caregiver or someone in your life, can activate the artistry and the creativity within. One of the things that I talk about in this book is an opportunity for you to explore different modalities, or your patients or your family or your community to explore different modalities. Because when I started the arts and medicine program, I discovered painting. But since I did that, when I brought art into the hospital, I discovered writing. The next thing I was doing was writing. I was doing my research, and I loved my research, and I wrote my dissertation. And at the same time, I became a writer. Then my writing led me to become a poet. And John Graham Pohl, what was great about he evolved into a clown like Patch Adams. If any of you heard of Patch Adams, we actually had Patch Adams come and visit us here at our hospital. John was a clown. John was a poet. And John, we created a theater group that went into patients' rooms and invited people patients to tell their story. And then we would do theater in the room with the patients. It was extraordinary. And then what I discovered about myself is, when we were on the floors, sometimes the nurses, what we discovered in the hospital that was unbelievable. We found gospel singers and musicians, and we found people who loved to dance, and we invited people who were in these very traditional roles of being a healthcare provider to bring their whole self into the healthcare system. And it was remarkable. So when you invite the arts in, it's like you're reigniting and activating our humanness, our whole ways of being. So it was really creative. That we found people in the hospital a bunch of physicians had a band, and we would have musical concerts in the atrium. We brought a piano in the atrium. If you go to Shands, there is a wall of tiles that we set up in the cancer center and had patients and families and staff all make tiles together. And we have tiles all through the hospital. And if you ever go to Shands, the other place, we have tiles upstairs in the ceilings. We invite people to do these beautiful tiles and they put things on the ceilings. So when you bring the arts in, you're creating a healing environment. You're creating an environment where there is a humanistic signature of people that have come and gone before you. If you go to the healing wall, each one of those tiles was a painting that a patient who was dealing with cancer in some way made an image, and they're still there, and their spirit, there's an energy. That's what I'm talking about. There's this energy of their humanness that still remains. And that is so powerful. So when I start this program I have, if you want to find out more about it, Healing with the Arts, the University of Florida, we put it on a platform called Coursera. Coursera is a free platform of courses from universities all over the world. And this course has 86,000 learners enrolled in this course. And it's totally free. And you can check it out anytime you want. And you can share it with friends, because it's amazing. It's been so much fun to do this course. And when I teach in this course, I teach guided imagery, I use visual arts, I do poetry. How do we integrate dance as part of healing, and how we do music. Now, one of the most easy things that you can do after this lecture is, when you're in school, one of the things that'll be really fun to do is create your own playlist. Songs that you love that put you in a mood and in a headspace where you are just in a happy place. Or if you're in a sad place, you can use music to express and let go of that sadness. So 2 things I would recommend is creating your own playlist. Create space and time in your life where you can continue to be creative in any way, shape, or form, and take time for your own self-care. That's really important. As you go through this journey in school, there's a lot of stress, a lot of intensity, a lot of things to do. But one of the things that's going to be really important for you to do is make time for your own self-care. That's how you balance yourself out. And that's how you are able to give day after day after day, is because when you reconnect with yourself and your passion and why it is you're doing what you're doing, that's miraculous. And who you are and who you bring to your role, whether you become a physician, a nurse, a physician's assistant, a physical therapist, whatever you end up doing, one of the most important things, not only everything you learn, but who you are as a human being, because what patients care about is how you make them feel and how you feel connected. And that has to do with your ability, not only to connect to them, but how you connect to yourself. Really, really important. So I'm going to share a story I love. And I'm going to start with this story, because when I was doing my research, I actually started collecting stories from patients and families who had used art as a way of healing. And I was trying to understand what it was about using the arts that was so powerful and transformative. So I interviewed about 63 people who used art as a way of healing. And I did what you call a qualitative study. The University of Florida does very quantitative, very statistically oriented, numbers, linear, basic science. That's what we're really good at the University of Florida. But I was a researcher who really wanted to understand people's experience of using art as a way of healing. So I studied phenomenology and a qualitative approach to practice, which basically is I listened to people's stories and I wanted to hear the themes. But I want to share you a story that was a turning point in my research that helped me begin to understand what I was trying to see in the phenomenon of healing with the arts. This is a little girl's mother. She tells me a story, and she is telling me her experience with her child. So I want you just to settle into your body and listen with your heart and also your ears. This is a little girl who was on the bone marrow transplant unit. And this is her mother telling the story. I was sitting on the edge of her bed. We've been in the hospital on and off for many months. It almost feels like years now. My little girl, she's so beautiful when she sleeps. Sometimes I just sit by her bed and listen to her breathe. Her body has become so tiny and so fragile. It seems like she gets smaller every day. This has been such a long and painful journey. She is my baby, and I love her more than anything. It was only last year she was diagnosed with leukemia. We had hoped she was cured. She had chemotherapy, weeks and weeks of radiation, and finally a bone marrow transplant. She rallied and she was cleared. It was like a great celebration after her bone marrow transplant. And during those hospitalizations, arts and medicine played a wonderful part in her treatment. The dancer would come in every day and they would throw ribbons around the room and dance. They would wave beautiful colored scarves. And she so much loved it, enjoyed it so much. She would giggle. She would move and flow with the music. She always was so excited and wanted the dancer to come back every day. One day the painter came and painted her a t-shirt with her favorite little pussycat on it, who wore her favorite red shoes. She was so proud of that t-shirt, she wouldn't take it off for days. And then they made a hat for her bald head that matched her t-shirt. The musician would come in and sing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" and "Itsy Bitsy Spider." And even the times when she was the sickest, the musician would just come in and sit on the edge of her bed and just simply sing to her. It was really a bumpy ride. One day she was so sick she couldn't do anything, and the next day she felt a little better. She's starting to sleep more and more now. We're back in the hospital. We were home, and when we went to the follow-up cancer clinic, before the doctor even came in, my daughter looked into my eyes and said, "Mommy, the bad cells are back." My heart sank. I knew it was over, and it was just a matter of time. I looked into her brown saucer eyes, and she even had a sweet smile. Now we're back in the hospital. Initially, no one came. No one could even look into her eyes. The conversations with the physicians were short, and the nurses were solemn. Her father just would stare out the window and wouldn't talk. And I wondered, where is the dancer and the musician and the painter? Well, I saw the dancer in the elevator and I said, "Oh, we're back. Will you come and visit?" She said, "Oh, definitely." When I was back in the room, there was a gentle tap on the door and the dancer was back. "Is she up for dancing?" Well, my daughter's eyes were closed, but she opened them wide. Oh, yes, I want to dance." It was as if in that moment, life returned to her body. The silk scarves were waved around her head, and the dancer lifted her up and said, "Will you dance with me?" She did. She twirled, she giggled, she floated on the music. It was so beautiful. My precious little girl was dancing. She danced and she twirled, and I can still hear her soft giggles around the room. It was a precious moment I will hold for the rest of my life. But in the dance, she did a perfect little twirl, and she said, "Oh, Mommy, don't worry about me. I'm going to go to heaven and I'm going to be dancing with the angels. And she did a little curtsy. And now the tears were rolling down my face and the dancer's face. But there she stood, the most beautiful little dancer on earth. And she climbed back into bed, and I tucked the sheets around her, and she was so happy. And that was like 2 days later, she passed away. But I think that story demonstrates the power of the illumination of the arts. And what I discovered as a nurse and as a researcher, what I saw and heard in that story was this child dancing was filled with spirit. And it was as if her mother and the dancers saw the beauty of this beautiful illumination of her spirit. And that's the kind of moments I want you to look for when you are in your career. Those moments of precious miracles, when you see into the other human being's eyes and you see their spirit, you see their love, you see their heart, and they touch you as deeply as you have touched them. So I just want to say that your journey to become a caregiver is a very long and arduous one, but I can't think of a more wonderful way to live your life, to be in service to others. I've had the most incredible career in my life as a nurse, and bringing the arts into the healthcare system was just an amazing experience. And now I'm on a new threshold where I'm creating programs, online programs for nurses to bring the arts back into their lives as a way of healing. So we can really renew ourselves, because I really think art is healing. Art is powerful. And the way we begin to learn about these kind of different modalities, so to speak, is how you engage with them in your own life. Not only are you learning in your mind, but I invite you to learn with your heart and your whole being. And I want to pause for a few moments and give you an opportunity to ask questions.
I have a question.
Thank
So
you.
can other physicians and healthcare providers integrate art into the healthcare system?
Yes. The way we've done it is, for example, there's a clinic right now on Parkinson's disease. So one of the things they do in that clinic, which is really wonderful, is dancing. Dancing is a very powerful modality to get people moving, and, using dance and music to get people to exercise, and work with coordination. It's very powerful. With Alzheimer's patients, we've discovered that when you integrate music from their past, their childhood, and they've lost their speech and memory, that music will actually activate certain areas of their brain and they can remember the words perfectly. There are so many ways you can integrate the arts as a physician, as a healthcare provider with patients. It's infinite. And the arts and medicine, we brought in artists to begin this process, but as caregivers, as you are in your role, one of the most important things you can invite your patients to do is say, what do you love to do in your life? What are you passionate about? What is something that, let's say a patient has cancer and they're really, really depressed, but they actually loved to dance. And when you speak to them and say, this might be a really good time to go back and dance again in your life when you're going through this treatment. So that's an excellent question. And one of the things I'm working with is one of the courses I teach at the University of Florida is called Creativity and Spirituality in Healthcare. And that's really inviting caregivers to integrate the arts into clinical practice. So thank you for asking that question.
Excuse me. Do you think one type of art is more efficient at helping patients, or each one serves a specific purpose?
Let me just understand. You're asking if it works better with healthy patients or if it works more specifically. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, more specifically.
I think it works. I mean, I've had patients in the bone marrow transplant unit. I had a young man who was basically drowning. He was a mechanic, and we invited him to make art. It was amazing. He made 72 drawings. He drew every single day. And when he was drawing, he was going through his bone marrow transplant unit, and he was totally scared. His first paintings were all of water. And then he started making islands. And he said when he drew a bridge from the island to another island across the water, he had this realization that he was going to make it through this bone marrow transplant. So the most important thing is to invite people to explore different modalities and work with one that clicks, that works for them. Everyone is an artist. It's amazing. We don't realize the skills that we have because we leave these aspects of ourselves behind. But when people are most sick, they reconnect with something in their life that helps them make it through. It's great for healthy patients, but it's also great for people who are really facing their death as well. I had one woman who had pancreatic cancer. Every night she would get up, she'd write her book. She said it was the only moment that she didn't have pain. It was like she slipped into a different world when she started writing. And it was the only time she experienced not being in pain. So it's been used in many different ways, but thank you for asking that question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yes, Carlos.
How do you go about the patients that are like less open-minded and aren't willing to go through the arts, like you mentioned?
Well, that was the best part, because when patients, think about it, when a patient's in the hospital, everyone who walks in the room, I'm going to give you a shot now. And they're like, oh no, you have to go to a procedure. And they're like, okay, we got to get an x-ray. Okay. An artist walks in the room and says, do you want to draw? And you go, no way, I'm not drawing. Finally, they can say no to somebody. So I always tell, don't take it personally. Just because that might have been the best thing that happened to them all day is to say, no way, I'm not singing, I'm not dancing, and I'm not drawing. That's great. But the other thing I want you to know, which is really amazing, even the people who are most resistant, sometimes you just, okay, that's all right. I'll leave this stuff with you. And if you're interested, it's here for you. And, there's hours and hours in the hospital, and you never know. You never know. And the great thing is it's their own choice, and they decide what they get to do. And that's the best part of using art, is it's all about them. If they want to, great. And if they don't want to, that's great too. So it's not our agenda, to have them make art. It's an offering that we invite them. It's an invitation. So thank you for asking that question. All right. Well, I'm going to read you one of my favorite poets, because as you start on your own career, first I want to share with you, I want to talk to you about, because you're going to learn a lot of different things. So I always like to put a plug in. I work with a nurse theorist that her work is called Caring Science, which is a theory of human caring. It's an excellent It's an excellent book about how we use caring as healing. And she has 10 Caritas processes that I want to share with you. One is the practice of loving kindness. That's really important in your caregiving. The second one is being present and being authentic. And they may sound simple, these things, but they're not. They're actually skills that you can develop to be caring. The practice of loving kindness, being authentic, and learning how to be really present with another human being. Developing trust and rapport and having the patient feel listened to is critical. Creating a healing environment where the patient resides, and also creating a healing environment in the hospital. When I first brought arts into the hospital, I wanted to transform the hospital into a healing environment, bringing in art, bringing in mosaics, bringing in music, bringing in gardens, having sculptures. So this was like, how do we transform the hospital environment to where it's uplifting? The other ones are using your creativity as a way to look for solutions. Instead of us being so problem-oriented, we become solution-oriented and inviting our clients and our families to become part of the solutions. Also, how do we teach another human being? One of the skills is to really be able to see the world from their point of view. How do they see the world and how do they experience the world? Another one is treating a human being with dignity. As physicians and as nurses, we deal with the body. So we treat this body with dignity and not like an object. And then in the end, I didn't go over all of them, but really there's a mystery. There's a mystical, beautiful dimension of being a caregiver. And that's honoring the mystery that is in every situation and notice the miracles when they happen. And I will conclude by giving you, this is Rumi. He's a 14th century poet, one of my favorites. Keep walking, though there's no place to get to. Don't try to see through the distance, for that's not for human beings. Move within, and don't move the way fear makes you move. Today, like any other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to study and begin reading. Today, take down a musical instrument and be the beauty we love. Be what we do, for there are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. So I invite you to include the arts and the passion of your creativity into your life, and don't let that part of yourself go. Don't forget that part of yourself, because that's one of the best parts of you when you become a physician or a nurse or caregiver, because that's what makes you passionate and whole and healed. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. That was so powerful.
That was so fun. Well, you can tell I love talking about it. I just love it. So I wish all of you so much the best, and check out my free course and send it to your families, Healing with the Arts. It's really fun. I know you don't have a lot of time, but you can offer it to your patients, your families, your community, and keep doing what you're doing. And I'm so honored that you guys are moving forward and becoming the healthcare givers of the future, because you will create the future of healthcare.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have a
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.